And class is in session. We are sending off the class of 95 in high style tonight with a look at one of my favorite movies of all time, unironically and ironically. Yes, we are talking about Allan Moyle's 1995 flop turned cult classic, Empire Records, a film that notoriously whose soundtrack sold far more than the movie tickets. And I didn't realize just how big of a bomb this movie was until I looked it up prepping for the show. The soundtrack sold 2 million copies. The movie itself, its domestic run, landed $308,000.
Actually, 303,000.
Oh, was it 303? Okay,
yeah.
hey, okay. We'll say in the 300 range because my internet, unless I'm reading my A's, is 3. I don't know, but that's a disaster.
Yeah, and it was a $10 million budget too.
Yeah, and I remember it coming and going. Like, I don't even think I had a chance to see it in the theater because it left so quickly. But the soundtrack is like, I mean, if you want a soundtrack from 1995, like this, between this and Clueless, this is it.
Yeah, and I think I would even throw Mallrats in there. Like that 95, like just the 90s in general were great for movie soundtracks. I mean, you've got Empire Records, you've got Train Spotting much later, Singles. I was gonna say Singles. Oh yeah, there's a whole bunch of them. But this movie, I don't think I realized who had made this movie until after I caught it on video, and probably even later than that. It's Allan Moyle, who directed another, one of my seminal films, formative movies, 1990s Pump Up the Volume, which turns 35 this year. And then he went on in between to do The Gun in Betty Lou's Handbag, a movie I think I tried to watch and never really got through. But talk about generational anthems, Pump Up the Volume, and then Empire Records. Now, Empire Records definitely is a cult film. It's found its audience. And every time I've watched it in the ensuing 30 years, I cringe, I die a little on the inside because it's so hokey and so cheesy, but so earnest and such a time capsule of my youth that I can't help but love it. So I'm curious, talking with my co-host for the evening, in sending this, walking this movie across the stage and awarding its diploma. I am Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. We have Mike Crowley of You'll Probably Agree, and we have Katie Glidewell, the blonde in front. Thank you both very much for joining, and all of you out there watching live or in the future. Gang, when was the first time you saw Empire Records? What did you make of it? Katie, let's start with you.
I first saw Empire Records. I had to have had the VHS, or one of my friends had the VHS. I remember us really liking, I was a huge fan of Ethan Embry. I just think he is adorable, especially in this. He went on to have more of a babe status, and especially in The Devil's Candy, really ripped out and all that stuff. But I had a huge heart thing for Ethan Embry, early on. I kind of knew Debbie Mazar, and Maxwell Caulfield was a huge crush for me. I'm a Grease 2 girl. So seeing him in this, even as small a part as it was, was a pleasure. It's very interesting seeing, remembering him in this, and then actually seeing the deleted scene where there was kind of a bigger arc towards his character, because he was just kind of a rock and roll douche. This was so below him and everything, but everyone in the store thought it was below them that he was there, so it kind of evened out. I loved the soundtrack. I was a little surprised at the way the friendship between Liv Tyler and Renee Zellweger, I remember when I was watching it, because I was like, that was a very quick fight and then you guys reconnected. I don't think that would happen in real life. I also don't think anyone would have been all that cool with someone stealing $9,000, no matter what the reasoning was. But there also was a lot of hidden story, that was very touched upon loosely by God, I forgot his name. I know it's Rory Culkin, but it was
Rory Cochrane.
Yeah, Rory Cochrane. there's a history between Joe and sorry, I'm messing up his name.
Lucas.
Lucas.
Right? Yeah.
That you kind of touch on, but I don't even think like everyone in the store realizes what's going on. And there's a lot of things like I kind of like that everyone has their own little story that no one really knows about, that kind of gets brought up a little bit by the end of the film or throughout the film, like Corey with her drug use, the fact that Gina wants to be a singer and stuff like that. And I don't know, I just remember it like being a girls' night. We watched it, we loved it, we danced around to all the dumb things, and it was a good time had by all.
Yeah, agreed. Mike, how about you? And because you're of a generation, I think, behind Katie and I. Probably
I was born in '85, so like
this movie would have come out when you were 10. Yes.
Yeah, so I didn't even know about it when it came out. I didn't even know about it until last week when you brought up the name of the film. So yeah, it wasn't a thing. Like my youth was a little weird. When I listened to music, it was always like movie soundtracks and stuff like that. Something that when I was a kid, my sister would just slam me about, saying, "Why don't you listen to normal people music?" I mean, I listened to a little bit of it, like Nirvana, AC/DC, Metallica, The Doors, Pink Floyd, stuff like that. But yeah, like when it came to this movie soundtrack, I just wasn't feeling it. I felt like I was watching American Pie or something like that, and it felt so. The movie didn't feel like it had much of a structure, although it did. It's very much like a prototypical 90s comedy where people are speaking more in speeches than they are with having actual dialogue. I thought I liked the performances in the movie. I thought I never seen Liv Tyler quite crash out in a film. She's always usually the very level-headed, sort of calm character, and this one, she is that a little bit because she's going to Harvard, she's going to be a big achiever, and this record store is not quite on her level, and she kind of brings that dimensionality to the character, which makes it interesting. Kind of like her whimsical, oh gee boy, kind of voice sort of lends itself to that character. And of course, she probably got the job in this movie, was taken off because her dad's Steven Tyler. So, and especially since it's a movie about record stores. But yeah, there's just like a lot of scenes where people are just like dancing around to songs, and it just kind of drags out. You're going, well, why? Like, I get why they're doing this. It's sort of like a jukebox movie. It's a throwback to the 80s, into the 90s, and it's supposed to get you into that time and into that music. And that's great, even for people who grew up in my generation. Like, that is their time. But for me, it just didn't quite resonate. I mean, the characters kind of felt like very stereotypical. Like, you have the pothead, you have the nerdy guy, you have the jerk boss who actually turns out to be all right. You have the very sexually active character, and then you have the big achiever, and then you have your protagonist who's sort of like the normal person all around. So, like, that it's kind of like where everything is going to go, and that's great, and it's likable, and I love the little concert in the end. That's nice, but yeah, to me, it was just sort of a regular mediocre 90s film that did it. Like, I understand why people love it, and I'm sure you'll have a million more reasons to like it more than I did. And there is a little more to their characters than you think, but that's a lot of movies, so there's more to the characters than we initially think. The movie sort of has a little Breakfast Clubby feel to it if you kind of think about it, but yeah, just not quite my jam.
And that's why I set you up there with the kind of generational thing, because I really do feel like it's something where you kind of had to be there, of that time. That's not to say that people of different generations can't enjoy it, but I feel like if you're in that kind of sweet spot, it can resonate. But it's also strange that this came out and it, the people that it was targeted at didn't bother going to see it. And I'm wondering if it's something that I just made a connection to while I was listening to you talk, Mike, because I was thinking about the other movies we've talked about in this show, specifically last week, Mallrats. was the big Universal Pictures follow-up to Kevin Smith's smash independent film Clerks. This movie almost feels like when you were talking about how people talk in speeches rather than actual dialogue, this almost felt like Warner Brothers saying, hey, we're going to kind of catch that indie wave and make a movie that talks to the kids and speaks to this generation. And I think it did, but there's also kind of a weird gloss to it that doesn't quite. If this had been something that came out of Sundance, I think it would have been much more in the cultural conversation than it is. Reality Bites. It came out in '94. That's another movie that had a killer soundtrack, but that movie was also, from what I recall, a pretty significant hit as well. It's interesting. You mentioned the jerk boss. Are you talking about Joe? Joe was not a jerk boss. I mean, he beat up one of his employees.
That's what I mean. He physically assaults one of his employees, and when everyone's dancing and having a good time in his store, which looks good for business, he tells them, he yells at them all, tells them to stop. Like, he's kind of like someone who has an exterior of a hard ass, but he's actually got a heart underneath his hardness.
Oh yeah, but you got to put yourself in Joe's shoes.
Oh yeah, he's under a lot of pressure. They just lost $9,000, and they got to get it back, and he's probably going to lose everything. So no, I understand that completely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is, when I first watched this movie, I wanted to be Lucas, and now 30 years later, I feel like Joe. And part of it is just the idea of wanting to be this like kind of creative spirit and giving other people that chance to shine, but also realizing that if you give them too much leeway, you're going to end up with a store full of gremlins, people who are like not dancing around instead of working and not taking the whole possibility of a corporate overtake of this independent record store seriously. I agree by the way, about some of the comments about the plot taking some bizarre turns, like the fight between Gina and Corey being resolved quickly, but even more so, it always rubbed me the wrong way. Last night went like a lightning bolt through me watching it, when at the end, when the girls are kind of making up with each other, and Gina is like, I've always wanted to be in a band, but I'm too afraid to audition. I'm like, no, really, where did that come from? There is no other. We're 80 minutes into this 90-minute movie, and that has never been on the table for Gina.
She doesn't seem like the shy type of person, in that movie. And she's like, oh, well, I don't want to sing because I'm afraid to. And then, you go to her full on, you're doing it on stage. But yeah.
What would have been interesting is if, there are a couple of scenes at the cash register between her and Deb, who are played by Robin Tooney. That was the first time I'd seen her in anything, and she's a wonderful actress. As is Renee Zellweger. This is sidebar. This is one of those films. It's a time capsule. You go back and you watch it, and there's like almost every actor in this movie either had been big in something else and was kind of showing up again for the first time here, or would go on to pretty incredible things. But there are scenes between Gina, who is the easy girl, if we're talking in the stereotype shorthand. She gets paired up at the cash register with Deb, who's the rebel chick who comes in. She shaves off this beautiful bob that she has. It's revealed later she rolls up her sleeves and she's got medical tape and wrapping around it because she had tried to take her own life the night before. But they're constantly bickering at each other because they're polar opposites. If there had been one scene where Gina was, we're over her shoulder, she's at the cash register, she's looking at like a trade magazine or a local newspaper for like band auditions, and Deb had leaned in and said something like, oh, what do you think, you're going to be in a band? And then Gina kind of like embarrassedly like tucks it away or something. Even just that bit of foreshadowing would have given us more insight there. And I think it's a lost opportunity because the entire film, the focus had been on Gina's sexuality, unfortunately, kind of put her into that box. And I feel like there was something more there we just didn't get to see.
Yeah.
What do you think, Katie?
Katie, because you look like you're about to say something.
I don't know. It's like, it's that little quip that she makes. It's like, I don't feel like this is really a group that expresses their fears with each other. I mean, when Deb walks in, she's got a bandage on her wrist, and it's only AJ that's like, what the hell happened? And he's the only one who's really like trying to get it out of her. It's like, you know what? It's fine. It's no big deal. And it's only at Deb's funeral that everyone is really expressing who they really are and not this mystique and all that stuff. And I feel like, I mean, they're like, throughout this day, we're seeing them we're covering it up. Like when Deb does a dishonesty button for Corey, and it's like, what's this about? It's like, and all that stuff. And it's like, I mean, it's not like she's like, oh no, I know you're taking speed. I know you're doing drugs. It's like, it's, it is what it is. I think if they would have foreshadowed it, it would have been, I actually would have thought that would have been too cheesy if she would have been looking at a magazine and all that stuff. I mean, she's kind of dancing and all that. And I don't even know what Corey's, I mean, I don't know if we know she's going to Harvard. So what is she studying for? I'm not really sure. Like, is she studying for like advanced placement courses? Is she trying to get an associate degree before she goes to Harvard? I mean, I feel like she's already there, but she's still like studying in the back, like even before her shift starts. So that, and then she's on speed to make sure she's like always doing that. So I'm not really sure what necessarily she's supposed to be studying for. Does anyone have an answer for that?
Yes, and I have an answer for the foreshadowing question. Not that it was a question, but I have a counter to it. She may have gotten an early acceptance to Harvard, but she still has to finish high school, right?
Okay, because I kind of thought I don't know, it seemed like this was like the summer and everyone's already done. I mean, obviously it's got to be a Saturday since they're working.
Right.
But,
I mean, that's the thing is I got the feeling this was like a springtime. Well, no, I do know this is a springtime movie, and we'll get to how we know that.
Yes. Yeah. That's true. That's true. Okay.
So, and don't let me forget about that, because much like this has been a revelatory 24 hours for me in the history of this movie, I've watched dozens of times. I'm finding a lot of new information about Empire Records that we'll get to, including the day that this took place.
And I know that answer also.
Yes.
Yep.
But so yes, my answer to that is that she may have gotten into Harvard, but it's still the springtime of her senior year, so she still has to pass her classes and study, and especially if she's a high achiever. This actually relates back to the character of Paige from Pump Up the Volume, another, the high achieving girl whose father was very much on her to get the good grades to get into the proper high school. Written by Allan Moyle. This movie was written. There was a different writer than the director. This was written by Carol Heikkinen. But the other thing I wanted to touch on, you mentioned that if we'd seen that bit of foreshadowing with Gina, it would have been cheesy. I'd like to point out she is the only character in the film that we do not get a significant foreshadow as to what their problem is. The thing is, the information about her wanting to be in a band comes as a surprise to the Empire Records gang, but it should not come as a surprise to us because we get clues about Corey's drug use, including her introduction scene where she's hopping in the car and Gina says, she mentions like, you've been up all night studying and how do you find time to do it? And she said, Daddy says there's 24 hours in every day. Later, when she has the fight with, AJ, we see her taking a pill out and consuming that on the down low. There's the whole thing with Lucas and the money. We get foreshadowing for every character except Gina, and I feel like it's a missed opportunity, and that's why it's kind of jarring. Rex Manning,
Manning Day.
Maxwell Caulfield, yes. Rex Manning Day that's a testament to the staying power of this movie. Yeah. It has become a meme. It's become a meme that has been celebrated. And I didn't know this until I looked it up talking about this show.
Every day, every year, I post Rex Manning Day.
Well, that's the thing is I've seen people post that around the same time, but I figured, it's just a meme because any day could be Rex Manning Day. Technically, no, it is April 8th.
It is April 8th.
1994, which is the day that this movie is set. And what is the significance of Rex Manning Day? I looked it up. I'm like, why is there actually a set day of the calendar of a set year? And tragically, that is the day that Kurt Cobain took his own life.
Was found.
Well,
he took his own life on April 5th. They found his body 3 days later.
You mean, so wait, all right.
I know because
that was the day it was found.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he'd been dead for 3 days. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there's something about that taking place in April is very something biblical
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Oh, and Lane Staley. So yeah, it's weird that this movie came out in 95 and it was set on that day, but they don't address it at all. Help me out with the theory. What is going on with that as far as a storytelling device? Because that can't have been a coincidence, right?
No, because of like video killed the radio star and all that stuff, and how I believe that is, if that's not the first song, it's one of the first songs. It's kind of that, like, the music died on April 8th. So they have to make so much music and everything with Rex Manning to commemorate that. It's like to try and bring life back to it because, that was, I mean, look, no offense, but I remember when they found Kurt Cobain and I had to like sit down because I was in shock because that was it wasn't traumatic, but it was like, what is going on? Like, to me, that was like my parents' generation of like Janis Joplin. Like, I can think of so many other people that died, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, Hendrix, Morrison. I mean, they were
all
were
27.
They were on the 27 Club. Yeah.
Wow.
But here's the thing. Like, I guess more of my question was, I haven't read anything about this particularly in relation to the movie, but has Moyle or Hennigan or any of the cast ever spoken out about the fact that this is a period piece, or is it just a coincidence that it took place on April 8th, 1994? I mean, I feel like it couldn't be, but they don't actually come out and express. There's no talk about Kurt Cobain. There's no talk about Nirvana.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I can think of is thematically, there is this sense that there is a giant corporate takeover that gunning for the independence, but Nirvana had also become this, giant mainstream kind of corporate tool in its own right, which isn't quite the message of this film. So yeah, I don't know.
Okay, this is it. The reason we picked April 8th as a day to have Rex Manning visit Empire is because Nirvana frontman Kurt Cobain was found on the 8th of April, the day the music of the 90s lost its mascot. Because Cobain was found dead on April 8th, 1994, exactly a year before Empire Records took place.
Okay. I'm still fuzzy on the Rex Manning connection. Like,
well, they just wanted to commemorate that day, but not in like a very sad. It's like they're having their own kind of mourning for it, but not in that sad way that you would want. And I mean, to get back to when you guys were talking about like how low the box office was, do you know what else came out on the day that Empire Records came out?
Mm-mm.
No.
7.
Wow. Now that's a polar opposite.
Because when you were talking about that, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do a little deep dive. I was like, oh, well, no shit, it didn't make any money.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like when, except they did make money, like when Dark Knight came out, Mamma Mia came out the same day, and it's like if you want the complete opposite of that, you can enjoy that movie. And it feels like that. It's like here's a movie about a serial killer, and here's a movie about a little record store people want to keep alive.
Now, question: if you do the double feature of 7 Empire Records, which is first and which is second?
Well, God, sorry. I'm sorry. It wasn't just 7 that came out because I didn't read the whole thing. Based on the results, the following films were released on September 22nd, 1995. You ready for this, guys? 7. Showgirls. A Reason to Believe. A Month by the Lake. I don't know what that is. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation. Canadian Bacon. And then Empire Records.
Oh, well, Canadian Bacon. No, that's fascinating because I'm sure you know this, what I'm about to say, Katie. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation also starred Renee Zellweger.
Yes.
That was her other big break, along with Matthew McConaughey.
That's number 4, isn't it? With Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, that's the 4th. That's why I didn't say anything, because I'm like, I wanted to say, is that the Dennis Hopper one? But I was gonna guess that came before.
No, that's 2.
95. Yeah. That's
well,
what I figured,
it's like the weekend before that was Apollo 13, so it's like, yeah, this is just such a wrong time. Like, they should have sat on it for 95 and had it released in the spring of 96. Like, honestly, this is such a bad time for that film to come out, because I mean, they know what the competition's going to be, so unless they thought that it's like they just needed a tax write-off, which I don't even know if they used films as tax write-offs then, like they do now. It's like, shelve it. It's like, that's a hard opening weekend.
Well, you wonder if that was probably the studio's decision to do that, and they and they didn't do their research when they brought it out.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, they probably were trying to find like a comedy crowd while more serious stuff and other things are going on, but it didn't quite mend with them. But yeah.
Well, the fact that it came out like at towards the end of September, this is a Katie. You mentioned a spring. I'd say this is a late spring, early summer movie. Now I realize it would have run into Batman Forever at the beginning of the summer, but it's also like you watch particularly the end of this movie where they throw the giant party and there's a big block party atmosphere. It feels hot while you're watching it. It feels like a summer night, not like the leaves are starting to turn, kind of a fall feeling.
Other than Liv Tyler wearing a full-on sweater, even though it was a crop sweater, she is wearing a sweater. But yeah, that's why I thought, well, this is in the summer. I'm like, oh no, it's April 8th, so never mind. It's like, ow, it really does feel like it's in the summer.
Especially, it's especially because it takes place in like New Jersey or somewhere near there, because he drove to Atlantic City on a motorbike on a whim in the opening.
Yeah.
But,
Delaware.
Is it Delaware?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Is that from Wayne's World? Why? I'm in Delaware.
I love that bit from Wayne's World.
Yeah.
No, so yeah, it's interesting because I feel like I gotta chew on this more probably for another decade or two. But the whole idea of Deb and her suicide attempt, and then having the mock funeral at the end where people got together to say what they were kind of afraid to say while the person was alive. That kind of resonates as far as being a kind of a post-mortem or a tribute in some capacity to Kurt Cobain.
Mm-hmm.
And also it rings back to, again, Pump Up the Volume, Moyle's previous film, which at the center of it was a movie about teen suicide and loneliness. Whereas that was very much about a kid who had trouble connecting with people. So he found like the one girl that he could talk to, and then the masses that he had to talk to anonymously. This really is about a group of friends who, Katie, to your point, they are guarded in a lot of ways as far as what's going on, but they at least have that community of people so they're not isolated. And they also have this great music that they can jam out to and really physically express themselves, even if they can't do it emotionally. So, I mean, there's a lot going on in this dumb teen comedy that I get a little bit something more of every time I watch, including the cringe, like when that big song where you've got Mark, Ethan Embry, who is Ethan Randall at this point. I'm always struck by that in the opening credits. He hadn't changed his name yet, but when he like leans into the camera and starts like singing, and then you get that montage of Never Seem to Get Enough of Me. I'm like, this is charming, but I'm embarrassed to be watching it. How is that possible?
That's kind of the vibe I got when I was watching the movie. You got these guys jamming out to this music, and I'm just kind of thinking to myself, how much of this music really, lived on and stayed popular? And I'm sure there are a lot of people who did, but like half the time when I was listening to most of the tunes, I'm going, well, what's this? Why are they dancing to it? Like, I mean, I get why they're dancing to it, but it didn't give me that sort of energetic feeling those characters had. I just kind of felt cringy during it.
Well, and again, that's kind of a generational thing, I think, Mike. And this is not I'm not trying to knock you or anything, but like the soundtrack itself, and this is something I should look into, because the Empire Records soundtrack, the CD that they released, has a lot of great music on it, but it's like maybe half of what actually shows up in the film. And I don't know
Mhm.
if they ever did a second soundtrack to kind of fill in those gaps. I'm not just talking about Rex Manning's Say No More, which I am going to read the lyrics of later in the show because it's amazing. But
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
the Cranberries, Liar, which was a big kind of
Mhm.
hit for them. Yeah, the biggest one on the album was Gin Blossoms, Till I Hear It From You. And then the movie, or the song that has stayed with me, I listen to it on rotation a few times a month, is Plowed by Sponge, which is the song, most people know it as World of Human Wreckage. That's at the end of the movie when Mark says, "Damn, the man saved the empire." There's that whole montage of getting ready for the party. It's that really hard driving song. That song changed my life. It drove me to seek out the Sponge album, Rotting Pinata, an album full of bangers. And I will say, as a personal note, Sponge came to Skokie's Backlot Bash, our little town fair 2 years ago. And damn it, it was a free show. My wife and I sat, almost front row right before the standing room. And like I was in euphoric heaven. And then the band came out to a little tent 20 minutes after they got off the set. They signed free autographs and took pictures. And I was beside myself with joy. They did not
Oh.
disappoint. And so, yeah, that's my cheesy 90s story, along with AJ, our artist who's going to Boston to chase Corey when she goes to Harvard. Early on in the movie, Lucas has a bucket of Harrah's Casino quarters knocked out of his hand. Those quarters land in various spaces around the kind of common area office. And AJ goes around later, you see him throughout the film, gluing those quarters to the spots where they landed on the floor. And there's this little kid named Warren who's a shoplifter who's complaining, "Hey, why'd you glue these quarters down?" And AJ says famously, "I don't feel I need to explain my art to you, Warren." My wife and I, a couple of years back, around the same time we saw Sponge, by the way, took a bunch of pennies and we lined our coffee table with them and laminated it. So we've got perfect concentric circles of pennies in there, inspired by Empire Records. Did anyone, either of you, and I'm asking you this of you too, Mike, because I know this movie changed and rocked your world. Any of you have any Empire Records traditions that you've brought into your real life?
Well, I've worked at a lot of bars, and I know a lot of bars do that thing where they take pennies and they put it like underneath the actual wood and laminate it like you did. So it was fun seeing that. But I mean, anything interesting for that movie that stood out? No, not really.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, Katie, how about you?
I have celebrated Rex Manning Day. I will always post it on change my profile pic, put it on Instagram, put it on YouTube and different things. I have met Ethan Embry. I have talked to him about Rex Manning Day. I have met Robin Tunney. I doing the deep dive. This is the first time that I realized that she filmed Empire Records and then she had to wear a wig for the Coven, not the Coven.
Oh,
Craft?
the craft.
Yeah, the Craft, which I did
That was
not
a wig?
realize she was wearing a wig that entire time in the Craft.
See,
Wow.
Hollywood's got good wigs. They're very
Because
believable.
she really did shape, and I don't know, I'm kind of like dressed sort of like Deborah, because I, when she shaved her head, I have a kindred spirit for that, so I love it. But it is amazing that you've got a Oscar winner in this film. And doing another deep dive, I found out that the guy who plays, I don't know if you guys realize this, but the guy who plays Burko was
Coyote
married.
Shivers.
Yeah, was married to Liv Tyler's mom when this was going on. So he was her stepdad.
Whew. Wow. The more you know.
Yeah,
But,
that was brand
I'm
new information to me.
I just got a shiver down my spine.
I know, right?
There needs to be a making of Empire Records movie, like a drama or a comedy about how this came together, because that's wild.
It would be interesting. They should have a panel for that. I'm sure they do. They have panels for that movie
somewhere.
Yeah.
But it's crazy too how so many people in this cast have gone on to do like cop dramas, like NCIS and like different things. I mean, it's really, when you like do the IMDb and all that stuff, there's like 6 of them in there or something, and it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's a bit like Whenever I see an actor who hasn't been around for a while, half the time I'll click on their picture on IMDb and I'll just see him doing that stereotypical pose with like all the other cops, like a cop show. I'm like, oh, okay, there goes another one. There goes another one. But yeah, it kind of reminds me of Oz, like because like half that cast went on to move on to Law and Order, and now one of them famously has an Oscar. But yeah, I mean, for this movie, you have an early like the two stars I really recognize was Liv Tyler and Renee Zellweger, and I think Zellweger she went on to actually win an Oscar, I think herself.
She's
for,
won a few.
Oh wow, really? Wow.
Yes, and she's been nominated for more. I think she's been nominated 5 or 6 times, and she's won 2 Oscars.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
What were they for? Were they for Chicago
Cold
or
Mountain?
Cold
No.
Mountain?
Chicago.
No.
No, she Cold Mountain, yes, for best supporting, and then she won for Judy. No.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I didn't see it, but I remember that being a thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who? Yeah, she played. Oh my gosh.
Wasn't it Judy Garland?
Yes, she played Judy. And Judy, and she won the Oscar for that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, my big thing when this came out was I recognized Anthony LaPaglia, who played Joe from Innocent Blood a few years earlier. A great, weird vampire movie that if folks haven't seen it, they should definitely check it out. But I want to talk about Rex Manning. So for those who don't know, my gosh, we haven't even put the spoiler banner up yet. It's been 30 years. Check, enter at your own risk, folks.
Come on, guys.
But
I mean, Mike never saw it before a week ago, so who knows?
I mean, honestly, you could spoil it, and it's like, well, I missed my window, so it doesn't matter. Or like, there should be like a certain rule, like how much time goes by before you can spoil a movie.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I also think that even if we discussed beat by beat everything that happens in this movie, the experience of watching Empire Records, you can't quite replicate that in a spoiler conversation.
Yeah.
But essentially, yeah, it's about the day in the life of this record store employees. It's about to be taken over by this corporate entity called Music Town. Lucas, one of the employees, gets the night manager gig. He finds the Music Town plans in his boss Joe's desk, decides to go to Atlantic City with the day's earnings and try and gamble it enough to pay off, to keep the takeover from happening. Doesn't work out in a very hilarious sequence that does abide by the rule of 3 in terms of his being on a winning streak in Atlantic City until the 4th time, and then boom. So the rest of the day, people trying the rest of the next day, people trying to figure out their lives, what they're going to do after the summer, what the fate of the store is, and all of this centered around Rex Manning, a pop icon, singer, and actor from a show that I'm assuming is from the 1970s or the very early 80s, which I love the title of it because it's called the Family Way.
And
are you familiar with that expression? It's an older one.
Yeah.
In the Family Way is a way of saying pregnant. So he shows up to the store, he's doing a signing, and it's just so soul crushing because the younger fans are there on behalf of their mothers, and the older fans that he have are like really old and really kind of like psychotically obsessed. And he just doesn't quite know what to do with his life until he gets approached by Liv Tyler's character Corey, who has been saving herself to lose her virginity to Rex Manning on Rex Manning Day in the back of the record store. And she arranges for a seductive lunch, and it doesn't go as planned because Rex Manning turns out to be an unbelievable creep. He still gets some with Gina later on, and that turns into a whole controversy leading to the blow up between the two best friends, Corey and Gina, which we kind of discussed already. But Rex Manning, what I love about this film is the attention to detail. There is a full video. Have either of you searched out the full video for Say No More, Mon Amour?
So it's a full music video. It's not just a single clip from the movie.
No,
they did a full music video.
Did they tie that sort of like, because like I know like in the old days, what was that MTV show called where they would like play music videos and there would be and Carson Daly would host it. And then like they would actually
no.
have like music videos to films before they came. I mean, they did this back in '89, even with Batman. They had Prince's music video come out to the film. Do they tie that to the advertising to the movie with this one?
I don't know. I don't know that they had
that
much
was a missed
advertising.
opportunity. Yeah.
But yeah, so they did a full like a 3-minute music video for the song, which is on the Blu-ray, which is the Empire Records Blu-ray, which is a technology that did not exist when this movie came out. But we'll talk about some of the other stuff that's on that disc, which is revelatory, as I mentioned. But the song "Say No More, Mon Amour," the video is very reminiscent of Robert Palmer's "Addicted to Love," which was also kind of parodied in Love Actually with Bill Nighy's character. What I love is that's a song that has been parodied in other movies, and each of the parodies I've seen is a brilliant take on it that's not just a Xerox copy. But yeah, he's this cheesy, he's kind of like trying to sing a French love song in English, and he's got the flowy kind of Seinfeld puffy shirt, and he's on a beach with these scantily clad women. In the full music video, there's a very bizarre thing with feet. I think Tarantino must have been one of the $308,000 or $303,000 customers, maybe all of them, for this run. But I want to pull over and read just to get a flavor of this song. I'm not going to sing it, but I want to go to the middle lyrics because it's not something that I had picked up on until watching it last night. Again, I've seen this movie dozens of times. I'm usually thinking about something else going on in the scene. But okay, say no more, mon amour. You greet me with a smile and a glass of rosé. I find myself distracted by your black negligee.
Yeah.
You tell me everything with that look on your face. Well, say no more, baby. Let's cut to the chase. And then say no more, mon amour. I'll bring my lovin' right to your front door. Here I come, baby, je t'adore. Lips are for kissing, baby, so say no more.
Well, that's
so you got romance
right there.
Romance and misogyny all in one lyric. It's masterful.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess the video was filmed in one day prior to filming of the entire movie. It was filmed like on a beach in North Carolina.
How romantic.
And Maxwell Caulfield, I'm doing the IMDb deep dive. It's like in the Rex Manning was in a TV show that was titled The Family Way, and his sister-in-law Haley Mills starred in The Family Way in 1960. Oh yeah, he's married to Maxwell Caulfield is married to one of the Mills sisters.
Wow.
Juliette Mills. He's been married to her since 1980.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you never made an appearance on the early Saved by the Bell.
I'm glad he didn't, because that just I have a hard time with that show.
What? Saved by the Bell?
Saved by the Bell. Yeah, I'm very much in agreement with Zach Morris's trash videos that they do, because I think he is. But that's a whole other. We'll have to do a deep dive into that later on.
Yes, we will, because man, I feel like wow. I do want to say Rex Manning is kind of irredeemable, but there is an entire arc to his character that was left out of the film, and you can find it on the deleted scenes of the Blu-ray. But it's also, I found a YouTube video that I shared with my esteemed panelists here, and I'll put a link to it down below so you can check that out probably tomorrow. There are 4 deleted scenes, 2 of which deal directly with what happened to Rex Manning after he was caught in the Xerox closet with Gina having sex, like right afterwards, and he comes out and he's only slightly embarrassed because everyone's kind of like standing around looking at him, but he's also kind of proud of himself. I'm hoping Gina was 18 because I get the feeling she was very much a senior in high school with Corey. But he basically gets kicked out. His manager, Debbie Mazar, leaves him, and he gets into a fight with AJ, and then he just takes his little black bag and sachets out the door. Later, according to this deleted scene, he runs into Burko outside the back of the Empire Records, and he looks kind of melancholy, and Burko's got his guitar, and Rex is talking about how he used to love playing it, but the record label wouldn't let him play his own music on his last 3 albums, and he gets really kind of sad. And Burko's like, "That's never going to happen to me." And then Rex says something like, you know, hold on to that feeling, or just remember that or something. And he just kind of like walks off into the sunset. And it's very sad.
Yeah.
But there's another scene, like the complete bookend, and I'll call it the redemption of Rex Manning. I don't know if that's quite the case, but it sort of is. At the big end concert, which is basically to fundraise to actually save Empire Records. They bring everybody in the community out. They've got this rockin' music. They got people playing up on top of the scaffolding of the building. They're rocking out. They have a separate scene where Burko plays Say No More, Mon Amour, a like kind of a hard rock alt cover of it. And he spots Rex Manning in the audience down on the ground, and he brings him up onto the stage, and they start playing the rock version of that song, and everybody starts loving on Rex Manning and this great music. And then the cops show up and arrest both of them for having an illegal, like unlicensed concert. So there's almost like this, you know, power to the people moment in the handcuffs as they're let off stage. I'm like, this is amazing. I understand why they cut it out. And I love that there's this kind of mystique to this lost storyline that took decades for me to find. Yeah. What did Mike? I don't know if you saw any of this. If you had time to look at it today.
I didn't get the chance to. I was going to try to rush it at the last minute. That would have been more interesting because Rex Manning, he's a character who's this, you know, who's big in the 80s, but now he's like a burnout and he's irrelevant. And I think he feels like shit about himself. But at the same time, he acts like he's like really, really famous still when he's not. You know, he has this enormous ego attached to him. You know, I mean, the way he plows through Gina and then Corey when he just, you know, straight out acts like a, you know, he pulls like on almost like a Louis C.K. on her. That you know, that kind of spelled the kind of creep he is, but at the same time, you kind of think, you know, what led him to becoming a burnout? Was he just not that talented? Did he have music people wanted to listen to that he wanted to produce that no one let him do? You know, there's sort of a mystery to why he became a jerk. But overall, he was just a character that he was repulsive for the sake of sort of like having you feel like, yeah, screw that guy. He represents the system. You know, and he sort of represents the whole music town that wanted to take over Empire Records in a way. You know, he's sort of like the sellout musician, but
yeah. Katie, it looks like you've got a different take.
Yeah, here's the thing, Corey. This was a consensual thing with Corey. He didn't just whip out his dick, and she was like, oh, I mean, she was like that because she
brought him onto it. Yeah,
she didn't expect him to actually go for it, or I don't know what she expected, but every woman who had something sexual going on, this was very consensual. Now they are young. I'm hoping they're 18, so that they're even so. That still is not great that they're doing that. But this wasn't like when you just mentioned Louis C.K. Louis C.K. was whipping on his dick for women who like, hey, and then his dick was out. This was different with, you know, Corey and Mr. Manning. Like, she was down to her skivvies and she was ready to like give it up. And he was like, okay, let's do it. And then she's like, oh shit. And then grabbed her stuff and left. And then with Gina was the one, it's like, it's just a gift I have. I can tell you what color and what brand. So again, she like I'm not saying these are like with the age dynamics, it is kind of creepy, but these were women who were very they were consenting to the sex that was going to happen and then kind of bust out with happening. I think Rex, it's just the fact that there's so many celebrities. And I mean, if you go to any con or anything like that, you see them where, yes, they had these huge things in the 90s or 80s and stuff like that, where they were the talk of the town and all this. And then basically this is what they can get. But they still have that ego from the 80s when they were the talk of the town. So it's kind of when you get that genie out of the bottle, you just can't get it back in. And that's sort of what Rex was, because he was like, "Why? I don't like this chair. I don't like this chair." And then Joe moves it, and it's like that, those little diva attitudes that he had and stuff like that. It would have been interesting though, and again, I think because of the fight that was so intense with Gina and Corey, I really don't think they could have done that twice, where you have two people who were supposed to be best friends going at it, and then you had an actual physical altercation with Rex Manning and AJ. I don't think you could have had two of those to be resolved in one film and people not being like, what the hell am I watching? I mean, I actually, seeing those deleted scenes, it was kind of nice to like see Rex as like an actual human being. Like when Jane left and he was like on his own and he was just sitting there kind of like on the curb or in the back because I don't did he not have a car or something like that?
He said the car didn't show.
Yeah. And then I mean it's not like they have Uber or Lyft then. So he's like on his ass and who knows where he's gonna make a phone call. But at the end, I mean, he doesn't have his like, you know, velvet jacket on and all that stuff. And he's got kind of like a t-shirt and like a jean jacket or leather jacket and stuff like that.
It almost looks like one of those old army jackets or something. Yeah. It's a really strange look. I
don't know where this went. I don't know if you like exchanged outfits like in Thelma and Louise and something like that. I don't know. But I don't know. I kind of liked, you know, him having that arc and all that stuff. But I think without having that moment with Burko, and then you couldn't have the end of him coming up because that wouldn't have made any sense. And I just don't, I just think that once he had the altercation with AJ, that it just, there's no turning back.
Yeah, I probably should just correct myself real quick. The Louis C.K. thing wasn't the best analogy. It was just the fact that he was with women where he didn't like really question their age. That turned me off.
Gotcha.
And the fact that you know, it, like once he, you know, whips his cock out, you know, immediately I think like reality hits Corey because she has this whole fantasy of what it's going to be like with this guy, and it's going to be on the night, you know, of his big night there. And then immediately when she goes, "Oh, this is what I paid," and she ran away, that's sort of when she probably learned that
well, it's
there are better
also
people out there.
Yeah, it's also that, you know, when he basically pulls down his pants and says rock and roll, it's the cavalier attitude, because she had, it's very clear in her mind, whatever personality or persona he had from this sitcom or drama, whatever the Family Way was, and it's very clear that he's not that, you know, person, not even approaching it. It's the whole age thing. I mean, he goes into that record store, he meets everybody kind of backstage initially, and he has to suss out that most of these kids are in, you know, high school, and it's unclear where they are in that journey. So yeah, he's a sketchy dude, and the fact that he does kind of indiscriminately, because I have no doubt that he would have done his business with Corey if she had been up to it, and then still would have gone ahead with Gina if she had been up to it. So
oh yeah.
It
is interesting though that Deb is the voice of reason to Corey. It's like, did you really want to have your first time where we count money, like, and where all the forms are, and is that really how you dreamed of it being? And she's like, yeah, no. I'm like, yeah, Deb hates you. You hate Deb. Like, you don't like each other. But Deb is the one who's giving you these words of reasons. Like, girl, really? Is that really what you wanted to do? It's like, I don't think so. I think you dodged a bullet. Like, I think it's fine.
And she delivers that speech while going to the bathroom.
Yes, she did.
And that's the thing. It's like, it was such a, it's going to sound strange. It's such a great moment because you don't really, the only person I could think of, the only parallel I could think of is in the Samuel L. Jackson remake of Shaft, where Jeffrey Wright playing the kind of the black Cuban gangster is sitting on the toilet taking a huge crap, like ordering Christian Bale around, which is odd to think about on so many different levels. But in this Empire Records movie, you got Deb giving this kind of sage advice in what passes for her as a heartfelt manner to Corey, kind of reassuring her and walking back from this ledge. But, you know, it's just completely natural. I mean, you see the entire process of her going to the bathroom and leaving the bathroom
without washing her hands.
Oh, I feel like she's the reason we have those signs everywhere. That's another legacy of Empire Records.
Totally picked up on that too. It's like, okay, maybe because the water was in the sink and Corey was dipping her hand. No, girl, you gotta wash your hands. Like, no.
Yeah, just push her aside. And what kind of diseases are on those records now?
Oh yeah,
Well, I mean, this is in a day. Seriously, if anything would have come out like that in the night, I mean, if you look in the film, it's all touching. Like, you've got Cash, you've got people wearing the headsets that are playing the records in little areas, which I miss that. I used to
the booths?
love that. Yeah, like that was a total throwback that they don't do anymore because you can't. And then and then even the headphones, like on where you can like pick a song, and that, like, I remember going to a huge record store in New York City in '99, where, I mean, they had like, you would always like listen to the CDs and stuff before you bought them, or play the records and booze. And then they had a whole wall of like Boondock Saint VHS, because that was like the thing. Must have been like '99 or something. And I miss that tactile. I miss touching all this stuff. Now it's just streaming, and it's in, you can listen to it, but it's not the same.
Yeah, they have like retro record stores, but they're nothing like what they used to be. I mean, especially this film, it was like they had a balcony and everything. It was an amazing looking record store. I don't think I've seen one quite that big, but I'm sure they're around.
Oh no, there's one, if it's still around, because they were closing it, but I think they saved it in LA. That's 3 times as big as that, Empire Records. Wow. And has a double level with like VHS and Blu-rays and stuff like that. It is amazing. Wow. I know in 2001 it was still around. Not 2001, 2021 it was still around, and I thought they were talking about closing it in 2023. I'm not sure if they did. I think they were like everyone, or it was still pretty hopping like when I went there, and I feel like it's just one of those places. It's like, just this is it. Like, you don't have a lot of places like that anymore. If it's like, probably you can count on both hands, like in the country, how many are left like that. And that was one. I can't remember what it's called. It's just, but it is absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Well, that's the weird thing, is that because I remember like Virgin Megastore, Tower Records. I mean, it's strange to think now, but we're kind of getting nostalgic for, like, if there was a music town nearby, even though it's a giant corporate kind of, record store, I think we're kind of nostalgic for that. I mean, I miss Borders Books and Music, but I remember at the time everyone was like, Borders sucks because it's this giant corporate bookstore that's squeezing the mom and pops out. And now there's like mom and pops, but no Borders, but there's like very few giant, gorgeous bookstores you can go to anymore. Like in the Old Orchard Mall where I live, near where I live, 5 minutes from my house, they had a 2-level Barnes and Noble that closed down shortly after the pandemic. They're looking at reopening it. I think it was just an issue of like the lease on the space. It was some kind of a weird property issue nobody cares about. But damn it, I missed that. Like going in and just like walking around a giant bookstore and seeing, vinyl and Blu-rays and stuff, not necessarily buying, but to your point, Katie, just like, I miss thumbing through stuff instead of scrolling through your recommended movies. Like, what is this?
There's nothing like walking into a bookstore and just smelling all that paper.
All the books.
A used bookstore? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's so funny. I was just talking about how much I miss Borders last night, because it's like, because I worked across from one on Michigan Avenue, 3 stories, like the books. Yeah, that was an amazing one. It's
I went to so many book signings there. Yeah, I would
too. I was telling my friend that I saw. I met Lauren Bacall there, and she signed my book. Yeah.
Ooh. Wow.
Yeah.
True story. I went to an Ernest Borgnine book screening because, I was a fan of the Wild Bunch, still am. And it turns out that David Fowley was at that same signing. This is years before we had ever met each other.
Wow.
In real life. Yeah.
Oh my God, that is amazing. And to your point, what you were saying about the Barnes and Noble, when I went and saw a movie last night, and we were talking about Borders, and there's a Barnes and Noble on Diversey and Clark that opened up, that used to be in Urban Outfitters. And my friend was like, I'm like, God, I love Barnes and Noble. And I'm like, I like Barnes and Noble, but I was more of a Borders girl. But I like the bookstores. I mean, I hate that the little mom and pop stores are kind of like going away. There've been so many in the past couple years that have gone away, even recently, that I know that have been there for like ages. And now there's like, I feel like Barnes and Nobles are kind of making a comeback. So who knows?
I hope so. They always had those Blu-ray sections of the Criterion collection.
They
You
do.
couldn't find Criterion anywhere else. That was the place to go to there, which is ironic. You're going to a bookstore to find movies, but same thing as going to a library where they have a ton of discs for films that you can't find elsewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's like, that was one of the things I always loved about Borders is that in each section you had someone who that was their specialty. So they would like hear the favorites of the store, and like in the movie section you would have people like, I remember buying like some Orson Welles films, like, oh, you're gonna love this, and then you should try this and this, and it's like these are my people. It's like I did not know their names, we did not become friends, but it's like you are a complete stranger, and yet I trust your expertise like without a doubt. So please, I am your Padawan, like help me sensei, get all these different ones. And it was great. And then that goes away. And now it's like people just, look at Letterbox and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, well, even Letterbox is or not Letterbox. I was thinking of Redbox, which recently closed down. But yeah, Letterbox. It's a place for making lists and seeing recommendations. But I guess no, it's funny mentioning Borders. I went there in the late '90s, early 2000s to find, because I would have stuff from the BBC. That's where I found I built my Red Dwarf VHS collection there gradually over time. And it was a beautiful, magical thing. So yeah, it is just weird now because of the attitude we had, or at least a lot of people I knew had back in that time, because there was sort of this anti-corporate, very much an Empire Records attitude about these things. And now we're kind of wistful for, no, please bring back the giant conglomerate bookstores, bring back Tower Records and Coconuts. And
it's very hard for mom and pop stores to survive.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know that from personal experience. Yeah, not me, but
no, I mean, that's the thing, is like people are nostalgic for Blockbuster, mom and pop video rental stores. Yeah. I know I certainly am, but I also realize how strange that is, considering that they were the big giant that squeezed a lot of people out. I mean, what's the equivalent going to be 30 years from now? Are people going to be like, man, I miss that. I miss Amazon. Whatever happened to that Netflix we all used to use?
Yeah, I miss just watching movies on a TV instead of having it directly installed into my eyeballs. Yeah.
Well, who knows? By that time, it's like, I don't know. Hearing that, it's like the answer. It's a Trivial Pursuit question. It's like, what did Albert Einstein say is going to be used as in World War IV or something like that, like as utensils in World War, and it's going to be rocks and sticks, because the nuclear weapons are gonna. So by the time it's like I'm hearing you talk about Amazon and Netflix, I'm like, well, hopefully that's because the world is still with us and we're not talking about, remember when we used to have stuff delivered to us and stuff like that? Now we have to go on the cannibal runs and all this. Like, man, I miss the good old days.
Remember when half the population was alive? Yeah, but
yeah, I remember I missed that.
Well, Katie, you just said something that I misheard you, but now I want to see the AI version of it. And unfortunately, it's the only way we'd be able to see it because Mr. Reynolds is no longer with us. I want to see someone make an AI movie, a post-apocalyptic film starring Burt Reynolds called Cannibal Run.
Oh. Ooh, that would be fun. Like Smokey and the Bandit. It's like Smoking That Bandit. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now I just went into a Pornhub sort of thing. Sorry.
Well, no. Smoker and the Bandit, going with the whole cannibal theme. You get some barbecue going.
Smoker and the Bandit. Yes.
Yeah. Damn it. All right. I just want to check my notes and make sure I didn't miss anything about that I wanted to say about Empire. Oh, here's a question. I assume, Katie, you're at least familiar with the poster. It's on the Blu-ray cover. Why is there a dog on that poster?
I don't know. I was wondering that. It's also very interesting though that yeah, it is weird because there isn't a dog, I think, in the entire thing.
There's a close up of a little dog statuette that we get. That's kind of like, I think, during one of Mark's freakouts.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, I don't know if that was jettisoned along with the Rex Manning storyline or what. But it was always very strange.
It is very interesting that this is like Liv Tyler is right there smack dab in the middle. I mean, I feel like everyone had equal parts of their storylines and stuff like that, but I never thought she was like the main star per se. I mean, I actually kind of think that Lucas had more of an impact on the story, like moving forward, than anybody else.
But you know, I don't think as awesome and as hot as Rory Cochrane is in this movie, he's not going to put butts in seats the way Liv Tyler. I was in the Aerosmith Crazy video along with Alicia Silverstone, who was in Clueless. I'm bringing it all back together with Class '95. The thing about the Empire Records poster and Liv Tyler literally being front and center is that her pose, it almost looks like she's holding back the rest of the cast, but suspiciously, she also looks like she's puffing out her chest. Like, yeah, I'd like a ticket for 2, please. I always hated the look of that poster and what she's doing on it because it always made me very uncomfortable.
Every comedy poster looks the same. They have like the white background with like all the characters like doing a silly pose or in front of the camera. Like even to this day, like comedies have the same exact poster, same exact color scheme.
Yeah, you mentioned American Pie. I'm thinking the American Pie poster now.
Exactly, same poster. Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, and obviously, whoever designed the poster didn't do that well because we all know that from what you had said, it did not make any money.
It made $303,000.
Oh man! Oh my god! Yeah, yeah. It's I mean, I will say though, like when I watched Mallrats and then followed up with this, like this movie's like in terms of cinematography, in terms of production design, like all the aesthetical things, it looks like Citizen Kane next to Mallrats. Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's both are single location, you know, kind of movies where the location, especially
and it's like
because
in a mall, kind of.
Right. But I mean, Empire Records, they spent I don't know if this is a real store that they gussied up or if they just designed the entire thing. But they really paid attention to making the store, here's a cliche, feel like a character in the movie. Like we've said, it's got, you know, the balcony, the record booth. Joe's office looks, you know, really greatly designed and well thought out. It doesn't look like it looks like a place that was lived in and not designed by someone from the studio saying, hey, make this look like the kids want to hang out here. It just looks like a place they found and said, this is perfect. Let's write a movie around this.
Yeah.
Well, and it is very funny with the 3 films we've talked about from 1995. Clueless is the only one that, I mean, a lot of the location is set in a high school, and with Mallrats and Empire Records, both of those locations are probably long gone.
Oh yeah. Yes. Malls aren't really a thing anymore. Although I was going to say I'm hearing or like seeing stuff like Gen Z and even Gen Alpha are getting like nostalgic for the 1980s, including like wishing that there was a mall culture again. So maybe by the time we're, you know, toddling around in our wheelchairs, which is, according to the movie, when Mark from this film is going to be a successful musician. Joe says, on that day, I'm going to stand up in my wheelchair and do a dance. You know, maybe we'll get to see our dream again. Who knows?
Or maybe they'll turn, if they haven't like leveled the malls, turn those into, you know, nursing homes for Gen Xers so that we can go to, you know, all the different little stores that we used to go to and have fun and live our dreams out until we die.
Wheel ourselves into Barnes and Noble and Spencer's and Macy's and all that. Yeah,
that's the thing. All of the little the units in the retirement home will be made up to look like retail stores.
Yeah. Hello Kitty, Gadzooks, 579. Yeah.
And of course, Hot Topic. All right. I do. Oh my gosh, I completely lost. Oh, I do want to say there was going to be a 4th edition, a 4th installment of Class of '95, and I'm glad that I listened to my better judgment and went with strictly comedies, because the other film that was very influential on me, and for reasons I can't quite understand, but it rewired my brain chemistry, was
Showgirls? Was it
no,
Showgirls?
worse.
It was Showgirls, wasn't it? It's okay.
No,
You're with
no.
friends. No.
Yeah, that might change after I tell you what the movie is. It was Larry Clark's Kids.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
I had heard the controversy. I went to go see this in the Showplace 12 in Bolingbrook, this theater, a multiplex in the middle of a nowhere town. Of course, it was a nowhere town until the year after I moved out, and they finally got cool stuff there. But somehow this theater got the movie Kids, and I went to go see it opening weekend. It was me and one other person in the theater.
I'm not surprised.
Very uncomfortable. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's not a fun screening. At least it wasn't a date, so you can say that.
I went a few years later. I went to go see Summer of Sam, the Spike Lee movie, on a date, and that was really uncomfortable. Wow.
I saw Crash on a date. Not the
Cronenberg
movie Crash, the Cronenberg film.
Wow.
I would say either one, you're not in for a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, Kids. That's another movie that that gave us Rosario Dawson and Chloe Sevigny and Leo Fitzpatrick, I guess. But also it gave us a lot of problems. Anyhow,
I'm just thinking of Seinfeld. You made out during Schindler's List?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, yeah. So don't look up kids. All right. Anyway, thank you both for going on this journey with me through the comedies of the class of 1995. There are a lot of other movies we could have looked at, both intentional and unintentional comedies, like Showgirls.
Like Showgirls.
Right. But yeah, I think it was a lot of fun. And thank you, Mike, for enduring Empire Records. I'm glad you still agreed to come on the show and talk about it.
No, it's actually enjoyable in some ways. It just wasn't quite a. I might check it out again, but yeah, in terms of nostalgia, I was like, oh yeah, I kind of miss movies that looked and sounded like this. Now they just kind of look and sound the same. Especially now, movies the way they shoot them, they're all like a single color scheme. I'm rambling. I'll shut up now.
No, I mean this is why we're it's a nostalgic show, and part of that is contrast.
Yeah.
But Katie, any final words on old Empire Records?
No, it's the one thing we didn't talk about is Brendan Sexton III, who plays Warren, and where he has gone, like from that goofy little kid and all that stuff, to then the antagonist in 3 Billboards out of
Ebbing, Missouri.
Ebbing, Missouri, and stuff like that. And it's like he normally is now playing like the heavy and the bad guy, and it was like, I always try and remember him. It's like, remember when you were cute and little in Empire Records, and now it's like you're just the Antichrist. It's like, I'm gonna go back to Empire Records because I like you better then.
Oh dear God, he was in Boys Don't Cry.
Yeah,
that must be a really dark role. I'm hoping he's not one of like the gangs that's around.
Probably.
Yeah.
I'm
trying to remember the actor's name. But
yes.
I haven't watched that movie in 25 years
because
I can't.
Yeah.
But no, I mean that's the other thing though, is like he is the kind of the cute little kid, and it's a comedic part, but it does have, even though it is kind of clumsily executed, it has some weight to it.
Yeah.
He has some edge. Like that scene where he comes back into Empire Records after being, hauled off for shoplifting. He comes back in with a gun and he points it at AJ, and then it cuts to the people in the office having Deb's kind of mock funeral, and you hear the gunshot, and you're like, oh my God, did this movie just become something else entirely? And unfortunately, you cut back out to the cash register, and AJ is okay, and you realize there's blanks, but that scene ends with AJ saying, "So Joe, do I get the job?" Like, but I'm like, no, it's a bit awkward.
Like, do you want to work here, Warren? It's like, well, I mean, he's not going to hire me. It's like, is this really happening?
Yeah, but, that was very believable.
Right, but as Joe said earlier in the film, when Gino's flipping out, she's like, "Are you?" Because he sends her home. It's like, "You should probably go home." And she's like, "Are you firing me? Have I fired anybody for anything else?"
Yeah.
But my final word on Empire Records is, my wife and I adore this movie. We have friends who speak the language of Empire Records, and still to this day, we quote it to each other in very unexpected ways. For example, we can no longer say the word orange properly. It is always orange.
Orange.
Yes. With the M&Ms. Yes.
Who's got a brown? Who's got a brown?
Yeah.
Orange.
And then veto is, veto. But yeah, check it out, folks. If you get the chance, definitely check out the deleted scenes. I'll leave a link down below, as I mentioned. And yeah, we are sending off the class of 95 in style. Thank you very much for hanging out, for enduring this and walking the stage with us. I am Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat, Mike Crowley of YP Reviews, and Katie Glidewell, the blonde in front. If you like this episode, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications and all that business. And we will be back again live this coming Wednesday night, talking about The Life of Chuck. That'll be 8 p.m. Central. So if you saw that movie, we're going to be talking spoilers. If you've read the short story, we're also going to be talking about that for those who've read it on the panel. It's really short. It's 60 pages long. I read it in like an afternoon. Marvelous stuff. We'll get into all that then. But yeah, thank you all. And until next time, whenever that is, whatever that is, thanks very much. Take care. And damn the man, save the Empire.